So let's look at the translations for chapter 6. We'll start off with the practice and review. Oculi nostri non valebant, quare agros bellos videre non poteramus. So we've really got two sentences here. The oculi nostri non valebant and the quare agros bellos videre non poteramus. So we've read it all the way through in Latin. Valebant is the verb. Oculi is the subject. Nostri modifies oculi, nominative, plural, masculine, and that modifies it. Third person plural, imperfect. Active, indicative. The imperfect, that BA gives it that imperfect tense. Our eyes were not strong. And then quare means for which reason, literally. For which reason, because of which. Poteramus, we were able, and that takes the complementary infinitive, the present active infinitive of videre. We were not able to see what? The agros. Accusative, plural, masculine, the fields. And what kind of fields? The beautiful fields. And yes, it is frustrating because bellos is the adjective bellus, bella, bellum, but also the noun for war, bellum, belly, neuter. Well, how can you tell which one it is? Well, in this case, it modifies a noun. Things that modify nouns are adjectives. Our eyes were not strong, for which reason we were not able to see the beautiful fields. Number 2. Sine multa pecunia et multis donis tyrannos stultus satiare populum Romanum non poterit. Lot going on here. Lot going on. But let's break this down into groups. I've encouraged many of you to group your words together. Well, let's do this first. Often in Latin, this is not necessarily the first way I suggest it, but I want you to work it through in some ways. Sometimes this way can be helpful. Take it in the word order it comes. In Latin, the only word that is often out of order is the verb. So, sine, without, multa, pecunia, without much money, and many gifts. A tyrant, a foolish one. Now, this is where we want the verb, will be able, or in this case, will not be able, to satisfy the people, the Roman people. So, without much money and many gifts, a foolish tyrant will not be able to satisfy the Roman people. Notice, all I've done is switch the position of the verb to put it where we want it in English. So, if you get stuck sometimes, just stick with the word order. Don't try to hopscotch around too much. The verb is pretty much the only one you want to hopscotch with. But let's identify this. Sine is a preposition that takes the ablative. And here it takes without, it governs money and gifts. So without much money and many gifts, there you go. Subject, tyrannos. The verb, poterit, third person singular, future active indicative. Will be able, or in this case, not be able. And what are we going to look for? What do we expect? What do we want to see after the verb possum? We want to see the complementary infinitive, the present active infinitive, in this case, satiare. So without much money and gifts, a foolish tyrant, nominative singular masculine, will not be able to satisfy the Roman people, accusative singular masculine, and Romanum modifies it. Non poterant igitur te de poena amicorum tuorum heri modere. Non poterant. This is the third person plural. Imperfect, that errant is the imperfect active indicative. They were not able therefore. What do we expect after the verb to be? The complementary infinitive. Complementary infinitive in monere, the present active infinitive. They were not able, therefore, to warn. Now, let's go in the same order. Now that we've got the verb where we want it in English, the rest of the sentence oftentimes will flow. They were not able, therefore, to warn you about the punishment of your friends. Genitive, plural, masculine, and Twora modifies it. This is the adverb that means yesterday. They were not able, therefore, to warn you about the punishment of your friends yesterday. Incidentally, igator is a word that means therefore. It is always post-positive, which means literally put later. It is never the first word in the sentence. Very often it's the second word unless the first word is a noun, and that'll move back. It usually doesn't move back past the second or third, but it is what's called the post-positive word. Wheelock has a footnote on it in the chapter 5, if I'm not mistaken. So just interesting. Igator, therefore. Parvus numerus graecorum cras ibi remanere, et amicos adjuare potrit. Let's look at the structure of the sentence. Here's your subject, here's your verb. Oftentimes first, last. If you get confused and think of parvus as the subject, it's okay. It does modify the subject. You're not going to be lost. But notice right here this et. So he will be able something to do two things. And if we remember potrit, expect the infinitive. Here's one complementary infinitive, and here's the other complementary infinitive. Both of these are present active infinitives. So, a number, nominative, singular masculine, specifically a small number of Greeks, the genitive, plural masculine, will be able, because let's get that verb in, because that's where we want it in English. Latin has it at the end. We want it earlier. Will be able to do what? To remain there tomorrow, cross, and help their friends, your friends. We don't have enough information. Pick one. A small number of Greeks will be able to remain there tomorrow and help friends. Help friends is fine. Interesting. Cross equals tomorrow. What does for mean? I just said it. What does pro mean? If you're pro this, pro that, means you're for. So procrastination equals for tomorrow. Literally. That's where we get procrastination from. Literally in Latin, it means for tomorrow. Magister discipulos malus sine mora vocabit. Oftentimes, first, last will work. The teacher will call. Nominative, singular, masculine. Will call. The bi indicates the future, third person singular. The tense indicator tells us it's the future active indicative. The teacher will call the disciples, the students. Accusative, plural, masculine. What kind of students? The bad students. The teacher will call the bad students to sine mora, without delay. Delay is ablative, singular, feminine, governed by the preposition sine. The teacher will call the bad students without delay. Number 6. Discipuli vestrae de libris magni poetae saepe cogitabant. Oftentimes the first, last will help. The discipuli cogitabant. And we see here the tense indicator right in the middle. So third person plural, imperfect. Active indicative. The students, the nominative, singular, feminine, we don't distinguish, but these happen to be female students. The students were thinking. There's your sentence. The students were thinking. What kind of students? Your students were thinking. Now let's just keep this in the same order. About the books, de libris, de is a preposition. It takes the ablative. Libris is ablative, plural, masculine. Magni poetae It goes together. Magni is genitive, singular masculine, and poetai is also genitive, singular masculine. Despite the fact that it looks like a feminine noun, it is one of those few feminine nouns whose gender is masculine, and that's why Magni modifies it. Now, Libris is interesting because Libris it comes from liber, libri, masculine, but there's also an adjective, liber, libera, liberum. One means book, the other means free. Now, this first one is book because we get library from it. This BR, this shortening of the BR, notice here in the E disappears. Here it's kept like liberty. So that's one way you can remember these two words. Number 7. Quando satis sapientiae habemus. Habemus, we see that tense indicator right here, tells you right away this is future. The mus, first person, this is your verb, first person plural, future active indicative. When, quando. When will we have enough, this is your accusative, singular, neuter, and enough doesn't change. Enough is always, satis is always satis. This is genitive, genitive, singular, feminine. Literally, it's enough of wisdom. Now, for us, usually we say enough wisdom. We do not say enough of. We say enough wisdom. Have you had enough? Do you have enough wisdom? Have you had enough pizza? Parents will say, all right, that's enough foolishness. But in Latin, it's always of. Now, we do this too in English. Curiously, it's as if there's a rule that says, I've had enough of your foolishness. Enough of your foolishness. When we ascribe it to somebody, foolishness, you run out of room, but that's I've had enough of that pizza. There is enough of, there is not enough wisdom. Wisdom may not change. And I don't know, see, here's the thing. I can determine that in English, when we use the, an adjective, that pizza, your foolishness, then we bring back that of. Whereas if we just talk about enough pizza and enough foolishness, we don't. So it is peculiar. Latin will always use the genitive. That's my only point here. Latin is always going to use the genitive. Multi libri antiqui propter sapientiam consiliumque erant magni. So, is this many free men or many books? It's like library, many books. Many books, many ancient books, because of wisdom and advice, were great. Nominative, plural, masculine. And it modifies libri. Multi modifies libri. Antiqui modifies libri. So my point is, as before, number 1, read it all the way through in Latin. Number 2, notice that propter, to put them in groups. And number 3, don't go crazy on changing the word order. Many books, sometimes the adjective is in a weird place. Many ancient books, because of wisdom and advice, were great. Gloria bonorum librorum semper manebit. Sometimes first, last. The glory, and we know this is future because of the bi, glory will something. Don't know. Nominative, singular, feminine. Glory, third person singular. Future, that's a future. Active, indicative. Glory will remain. Well, let's throw in this ad semper. Glory will always remain. And let's talk about these. The glory of good books. Genitive, plural, masculine. We know it's good books, not free men, because it's like library. The glory of good books will always remain. Possuntne pecunia hodumque curas vitae humanae superare. We know it's a question because it's got this NE at the end. We don't need it. It just indicates, there's no translation for it. It just indicates, hey, this is a question. Posunt, third person, plural, present, active, indicative. Are they able? Are what able? Oh, pecunia, we know this is nominative singular feminine. Otium, que, nominative singular neuter. And together, and they are together because there's this que that joins them. So, are they able? Are what able? Money and leisure. Are they able? Now what do we expect? Complementary infinitive. Present, active, infinitive. Are money and leisure able to overcome the concerns, the cares, accusative plural, feminine, of the human life, this is genitive, singular feminine, and humani modifies it. Are money and leisure able to overcome the concerns of human life? (11) Therefore, we cannot always see the real vices of a tyrant. Therefore, this is your igitur. But remember, it is post-positive. And what does that mean? It is put later. Literally, positive means to put afterwards. So it's not going to be first. We is your subject. Cannot. That's all going to be one word in Latin. That's why I give it this little loop. Always is your adverb. We'll write it down. It's semper. C, this is your complementary infinitive. Your present active infinitive. And how do I know it's the infinitive? It's not the infinitive in English. No, we have two words in English, two ways to do this in English. We are able to, whatever the word is, and we can, whatever the word is. So in English, this one looks more like an infinitive. The first one is the infinitive, and the second one is not the infinitive. Latin always uses the infinitive. Always. So, we cannot always see what? Vices. What kind of vices? The real vices. So that whatever vices are going to be, real is going to modify it. And of a tyrant is going to be genitive. Tyrant, singular, masculine. Okay, we cannot. First person, plural, present, active, indicative. Always. See, there's no word for the. Vices, accusative, plural. And I know the word for vices is neuter. And real is going to modify it. Of a tyrant, we've already got it. So, we cannot. Non possumus. Now we'll stick in the igitur. Therefore, let's I'll write it here for now. Semper, just to keep it in the same word order. Always see the vices, the vitia. And what kind of vitia? The vitia vera of a tyrant. Tyranny. Now let's change the word order a little bit. Vitia vera tyranny. The genitive is always going to go after the vera. I do kind of like the non possumus right at the beginning. So let's say non possumus. We are not able, therefore, the vitia vera, the true vices of a tyrant. Oh, I didn't include the known. Known, semper, videre. I'm not entirely satisfied with that, but I think it's a little better. Maybe vitia could go first. Vitia vera igitur. Throw that at the beginning. That's an idea. Anyway. 12. Few free men will be able to tolerate an absolute ruler. Men will be able, all one word, to tolerate, that's my complementary infinitive, a ruler. What kind of ruler? Absolute ruler. And do we have an? No. Few and free is going to modify men. Men is nominative, plural, masculine. Will be able, third person, plural, because, we've got plural here, so it needs to be plural there. Third person, plural, future, active, indicative, To tolerate, present, active, infinitive, a ruler, accusative, singular masculine, an absolute modifies it. So, pauci, few, men, what kind of men? Free, liberi, because it's liberty, a ruler, an absolute ruler. You know what? This is all one word. Absolute ruler is tyrannum. A ruler, tolerare, to tolerate. And will be able, poterunt. Few free men will be able to tolerate an absolute ruler, a tyrant. 13. Many Romans used to praise the great books of the ancient Greeks. Romans used to praise the books. What kind of books? The great books. We don't need to worry about a word for the. Of the ancient Greeks. There's none of these words. This is genitive, plural, masculine. So, many modifies Romans. This is nominative, plural, masculine. Used to praise. Yes, I am very much aware there's a word for solebat, for example, are accustomed, we're accustomed to praise. But the used to, in this case, and in many of the cases, much more than you would think in English, okay? The used to is refers to habitual or repeated action in the past. And as such, that is the imperfect tense. Third person plural, imperfect, active, indicative. And I know you're wanting to say, use the word we're accustomed to, we're used to. You're like, that's not right. I need to use a word for used and a word for to praise. No, used in this case just means that it was a habitual or repeated action. So, Romani. Romani. I'm going to put the word at the end, used to praise, lauda, get my stem, get my tense indicator, ba, and the ending, bont. Used to praise the what, the books, the libros, magnos, of the ancient Greeks, Graecorum antiquorum. Many Romans used to praise the great books of the ancient Greeks. So, number 14, where can glory and fame be perpetual? And they're telling you to use the quae here. Quae is just a word to put at the end. It's like bacon and eggs, peanut butter and jelly. It just goes at the end. And sometimes we even write it, bacon and eggs, peanut butter and jelly. So they use quae. Quae is just shorthand for two things that go together. So where, ubi. Can, this is the able word. And in Latin, the only way to do it is take the complementary infinitive, whereas in English, it's not quite so obvious, I agree. So glory and fame, this is nominative, singular feminine, this is nominative, singular feminine, ubi, where? Ubi. Where can? Fama? Glory was first, right? Let's start this over. Ubi. Fama. I've done it again. Gloria. Fama. Just put that quae at the end. Fama quae. Where are they? Possunt. Are they able? Esse to be. Perpetui. Okay, a couple different things. Perpetui, I've made that an AE, plural, but yet Gloria is single and Fama is single. Yes, but together they are plural. So where are glory and reputation able to be? This is your complementary infinitive. To be perpetual. A note on ubi. Ubi is already an interrogative. Ubi always introduces a question. When it's at the beginning of a sentence like this. And as such, it doesn't need the ne at the end of it. when you begin with an interrogative, then you don't need the ne. If you're going to begin with a regular old word like possunt, are they able, then you would put the ne at the end. Sententiae antiquae. Dionysius, tum erat tyrannus Syracusonorum. Dionysius at that time, this is just adverb, was, third person singular imperfect, active indicative, the king of the Syracusans, I think is fine. Dionysius is your subject. And notice how I just keep the same word order. Dionysius at that time was king of the Syracusans. That's it. 2. Optasne meam vitam fortunamque gustare. Oh, vitam fortunarem aurum, they go together. There's that que. Gustare. Why do I have gustare? Why do I have the infinitive? Because we have optas. Optas plus ne, that just means it's a question. Optas, so let's turn it into a question. Optas by itself is you hope, but when you turn it into a question, it's do you hope? Do you hope to enjoy, infinitive, present active infinitive, to enjoy my life and fortune? Or to taste? Do you want a taste of this? Do you want a piece of me? 3. Possumusne odi in malis insidiis et magno exitio esse salvi. Are we able, this is just a question, O gods, what are we looking for now? We've had able, what do we look for? We look for the complementary infinitive. Are we able to be? Are we able to be what? Safe, nominative, plural, masculine. Are we able to be safe, gods, in malis, in these evil treacheries and great destruction? In covers both of those. Notice that I try to keep the same word order. Are we able, O gods, in bad treacheries and evil destruction, to be safe? And I think you can get enough of a meaning if you don't mess with the word order too much. Again, the only time you want to mess with the word order is when you have the verb, and because that wants to be in a different place. Propter curam meam in perpetuo periculo non eritis. Propter governs the curam and the meam on account of my concern, my care. In constant danger, in perpetuo periculo, you will not be. This is the second plural, future active indicative. So, on account of my care, you will not be in constant danger. Propter vitia tua multi te colpant, et nihil te in patria tua delectare nunc potest. I've read it out loud in Latin, and so I know that with that et, I'm dealing with two different sentences. And this propter vitia tua, that a unit by itself, I want to encourage you to group things together. And so by grouping these together, we are left with basically, the first sentence is many blame you. And then we can fill it in. Because of your vices, many blame you. And what? Nothing is able. We'll look for the complementary infinitive, to delight. And now that we've got the verb out of the way, because again, the verb is what's going to cause the problems. Nothing is able to delight you in your country now. Again, and I'll repeat it. The verb, you do need to tweak the placement of the verb for a good English translation. But I encourage you, once you've done that, once you've gone to the verb and tweaked it a little bit, put it into English sentence, go back to the same word order. And don't hopscotch around. I think that will just help you in the long run. And besides, it'll help you appreciate the Latin just as it flows, you know what I mean? So 5. Number 6. The fortune. Belli pecuni secundi. I don't even know what that means. Varia erat. There's my... So fortune was varia. Different. Then we have of, because it's a genitive. So the fortune of the Second Punic War was different. The outcome was different. I know you want it to be varied, and I agree. I think it should be varied. I'm not Honestly, I'm not thrilled with this sentence either, but that's what it means. The fortune, the outcome of the Second Punic War was different. The First Punic War they won, the Second Punic War they lost, in other words. 7. Patria Romanorum erat plena Graecorum librorum statuarum quae pulchrarum. Here's my verb, was. And if was is in the sentence, oftentimes we can maintain the same word order. The country of the Romans was full of Greek books. And, we'll bring that and in there because we want it here, and of statues beautiful. The only flip-flopping we need to do in this sentence is we would say of beautiful statues. The country, again, the country of the Romans was full of Greek books and statues, beautiful statues. How's that? Very little analysis there. But in some ways, I don't think it's necessary for the understanding of the sentence. Sine dis et deabus in caelo, animus non potest sanus esse. So here we go, we can group these together without something in the sky. There you go. The soul, non potest, is not able. There's my complementary infinitive, to be. To be what? To be sanus. The soul is healthy, sane, healthy, whichever you want, doesn't matter. Without the gods and goddesses in the sky, the soul is not able to be healthy. 9. Si animus infirmus est, non poterit bonam fortunam tolerare. So group these sentences. If the soul is infirmus, if the soul is infirm, unhealthy, non poterit, third person singular, future active indicative, it will not be able. What? Well, now we need to pull in the verb from wherever it is in the sentence, or in this case, the complementary infinitive. To tolerate. Now let's go back to where we were. Tolerate what? A good fortune. If the soul is unhealthy or is infirm, it will not be able to tolerate good fortune. Yeah. You're not going to handle winning the lottery, for example, I guess is the meaning. Ubi, number 10. Ubi leges valent, ibi populus liber potest valere. Again, break these up. Where laws are strong, valent, third person, plural, present, active, indicative. Where laws thrive, are strong, there, I like the ubi-ibi placement. There, the people. What kind of people? Nominative, singular, masculine. The book people? No, the free people. A free people is able to be strong. So, where laws are strong, there, a free people are able to be strong. Oh, and that's the end. Very good. Let me know if you have questions.